recover its previous functions as a salamander, which just baffled me. And I started thinking about things like, well, what if you have an animal or a human? You take half the brain out and put it into another one. Well, where does your seat of consciousness go? Where do you feel you are?
Right.
And my gut tells me that you decide where you go. That that if at some point we decide that we want to upload our memories into silicon, that might be fine, as long as we, our souls make the conscious decision to go and occupy that silicon and experience its consciousness, if you know what I mean.
Right. But I guess also what you're saying there a little bit is that although we might be in a simulation or might be heading that way, none of these experiences that we would have there would be, less real or less valuable in that sense. It would just be another form of experience, basically, and we're still behind all of that, behind the fundamental programming that is going on. We're still individuals there, so to speak.
Exactly. And who really knows this? I mean, this has been what philosophers for thousands of years have been trying to figure out, and smarter minds than mine have all disagreed with each other. So I really, I don't think I have a better answer.
Do this theory, in your mind, connect anything then to the idea of the holographic universe? I mean, that's very much a potential program that is going on, so to speak, kind of a supernatural theory almost to how the universe works. What do you think?
Well, I think that's a really interesting one, and that was one of the books that I'd say really inspired me over the past 10, 15 years, was The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot. Certainly some of the ideas that information about the universe or about all space and all time seems to be distributed and seems to be present in a lot of locations, explains a lot of things. It explains, some of the paranormal results of experiments. It explains quantum entanglement, some scientific anomalies and things like that. I try to relate it to the model of a programmed reality. It also kind of fits because distributed computing is certainly a real mechanism for computational scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
So you could have a very distributed construct that contains all information about the construct at many different places, and as a result, you can tap into that, or you can, that construct may be responsible for things like quantum entanglement, where you take particles and separate them out by light years, and they perform exactly the same. When one of them does one thing, the other one does the same thing, or when you observe one thing, then the other one is observed the same way.
Right.
And it seems to violate relativity, but it wouldn't violate it if it's getting its information from the construct somehow.
Right, exactly. So I mean, also I guess that the question that arises a little bit is, what is it that we either are creating or potentially even are being manipulated into? I'm talking about the world then in general, even if we are in a simulation or not, or if we're heading that way. The question is it a prison, or what is it? And if so, could it be reprogrammed? I mean, if we look at the world today, obviously we see a lot of troubles that are going on, but the question is, can it be changed? Can we reprogram it after our will? What do you think?
Yeah, I kind of think we can. Going back to the singularity idea for a moment, if you look at the population explosion, and you look at all these different ways of looking at society, these metrics that can be done on sort of the complexity of society and the rate at which technology is increasing. They all overlap, and they all look the same, and they all seem to be going asymptotically crazy sometime this century. And I think that's sort of coincident with the idea of the singularity. But I ask myself, why does it seem that way? Why does it seem that we're so close to this remarkable time? And maybe the reason that it seems that way is because that's the programmed environment that we're in. We're here to experience this.
Yeah.
And it could end at some point, or maybe it will it'll change in a different way. But it almost seems like it's there intentionally for us at this point in time.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. It feels that way, and that's why I kind of had the general outlook on everything is that to a certain degree it is everything is in order, so to speak. Even if it's a program or not, it feels that it's the experience are good for people. It helps people to grow and so forth, and potentially also if we kind of project ahead and look at the potential, I don't know what to call it, the birth of the singularity, or at that point it would almost, to me, it kind of represents almost like a Big Bang moment almost, and I tend to think that even potentially it could be a kind of a rebooting of the program almost, meaning that if we reach the level where we can control the program or the environment to that extent, the program or the universe or the experience here kind of loses its meaning, and potentially it reboots and starts all over again. I don't know. What do you think?
Okay, you've won the game, finished the game, let's start over.
Yeah.
Something different now.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think?
I think that it's sort of the way it feels to me too. And one of the things that a lot of people, I think, get concerned over is the idea of misery and war and the very negative aspects of reality. And I've been asked the question many times, why would anybody program that in? Why would anybody program war or torture or any of these kind of negative society concepts into reality? And the answer is it's not necessarily programmed in. I think it's the free will of the people that are in this reality who make it happen. Again, the reality seems to be a construct, and you can do with that construct what you will. It's not the fault of the creator of the construct that it gets abused in some way. It's the fault of the abuser.
Exactly. And do you think that it will the program will have an end if that is the scenario we're in right now?
Well, I hesitate to even speculate on that, but it seems like it might, or the other thing that seems to happen. I don't know how you feel about this, but there seems to be kind of an order to the way the world works, and when things seem to be at their worst, something kind of kicks it back into the positive direction, and when things seem to be too good, it gets kicked back into the negative direction. And I don't mean that necessarily on a global scale, but
right.
Localized, it's the same way. It feels that way in people's lives. It feels that way in cities and countries, and and maybe even globally as well. I read recently where one of the Central American countries, and I feel bad for not remembering the name of it, but I don't know if it was Costa Rica or one of them, but they're reforesting a lot of the Amazon. So while 5 years ago, everybody predicted that the destruction of the Amazon was going to have catastrophic consequences to our environment, it still may, but we're also starting to see some trends of reversal. And I also think that things like nanotech could play a very large part in cleaning up some of the mess that humans have created. The concepts behind it don't preclude things like cleaning up environmental disasters,
Right.
or sending a nanobot swarm out to deprogram atomic weapons.
Yeah.
All of these things seem like they could be, possible with this future. So, like everything, there's a dangerous side and there's a positive side, and if there always seems to be a balance between the two, that in and of itself might be a good indication that there's some programming going on.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I've heard about this too, kind of different techniques of waste management and so forth, and as you say, radioactive material and things like this, and also there's another form of programming, if you will, going on right now, but this has to do with the DNA. I mean, we have people like Craig J. Venter, for instance, that are developing artificial life. He's manipulating on the DNA level, and that's, I guess, another kind of angle to all of this, and that would also, I guess, dovetail a little bit about the idea with if the idea about the soul or a consciousness behind something, meaning that if these guys that are working with this potentially could develop a new organism that is larger than a few cells or whatever, could it be life? Can we create life, or at least rearrange the molecules enough that something that it will come to life? I don't know, but my main point, I guess, I wanted to bring out is that we have the nanotechnology aspect to it, and we have the computer, the programming aspect, and then also the DNA level, of course, to this. Then, have you heard about this? And if so, what do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I might have even seen a reference to an article on your website about this. There was recently some researchers from Northwestern and Brookhaven laboratories. They took gold nanoparticles and attached DNA tentacles to them, and they were able to create effectively like a nanobot that was able to link with its neighbors and create ordered structures, and they were able to create crystals with up to like 1 million particles in it. So, the merge of inanimate material and DNA and the merge of AI and humanity, is all coming at the same time. It's really pretty remarkable.
Exactly. It's the kind of the idea of the singularity again, obviously. And yeah, I think that this had to do with superconductivity also, actually. And this, of course, ties into things like invisibility in the long run, and how to actually manipulate matter and making it, going against gravity, basically,
Yes.
So it's absolutely fascinating, and things are progressing, and as you say, it's moving faster and faster. Things that occur, or things that the outlook on all of this, of course, is as we talked a little bit about before, is if we will make it or not, if we will make it to that level before, or will we finish ourselves off. If we return to the idea of the singularity, do you have any idea of kind of how this would come about, or if so, when? You read Kurzweil's book. What does he say in there?
Yeah, I think he says it's 30 years out or so, and I kind of feel like the whatever is behind it, if there is something behind it, will keep the balance again, and will preclude the disaster, the really serious disasters, the wiping out of humanity type of thing from happening. What will happen at the singularity point, you really don't know. It's anybody's guess, I suppose.
Exactly. Yeah, I guess that is one of the properties of the singularity, that no one will know what will happen after that happens.
One thing I think is interesting to think about is that, if that's happening 30 years out in our civilization, and life, by all accounts, seems to form fairly easily. And I say this because there seems to be evidence now that there's